And welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson, and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're playing Chocobo GP, the Gunk, and Puzzle & Dragons Switch Edition.
Puzzle & Dragons? That's going way back.
It's a blast from the past.
Are there still both puzzle and dragons in that game?
Yes, yeah. There's a lot more dragons than I remember, but, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Same amount of puzzle, though. That's really the part you kind of want to... That's the status, right? Exactly.
That's what I was there for, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, what's going
on? Just an extra.
They took building out of Fortnite. Did you hear about that? So I figure all bets are off. Maybe it's like there's no more puzzle in Puzzle & Dragons.
No, they took the building out of Fortnite? That's weird.
It's just temporary. I think they're just trying it out. But I was like, should I start playing Fortnite now? Because I was never into the building aspect of it.
No. I was kind of always in awe of the people who were really good and super fast at it. But no, I was not into that part at all.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe now's the time.
I mean, in general, I was not really into the running around and shooting at other people part either. So
yeah, you're just like, just want to pick some flowers or... Go to the drive-thru.
Does anyone need a garden tended? Because that's kind of my vibe right now. Yeah.
Maybe it's the wrong game for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Perhaps. But yeah, the few times I've been lured into it, I think with you mostly, it's sort of like, this is fun. I could see how people would be into this with their friends. And then somebody was just on the fly building a fort in Fortnite, and I was like, wow, that's a skill.
Yeah.
There's something going on there that I don't possess.
That's where I decided to draw the line for myself. There are like games where I just think, like, this is sort of a skill threshold I'm never going to cross, so why bother?
Well, that's an interesting segue to Puzzle & Dragons, because I've played a bit of this game over the years. It's, for those who don't know, this is one of those, mobile games that's been around for, what did you and I decide, about 10 years this came out ago.
Yeah, 2012. Late 2012 in the US.
And it's had sort of myriad editions and versions of it. It's been on Nintendo devices before. There was a version of it for the 3DS a couple of years ago, 2015, if I remember correctly, that had like a Mario edition of Puzzle & Dragons that replaced it, all of the icons in the puzzles with, Mushroom Kingdom type things. Generally sort of Nintendified the entire thing. So yeah, this has been around for a while, and I'm okay at it. It's fun. It's sort of distracting, and it sort of steers me into kind of my comfort zone when it comes to sort of mindless, repetitive tasks in video games. Mm-hmm. And it has just enough sort of like, good job, Randy, high five. Here's a cool new thing for you to do. Here's an unlock. Here's a little gotcha where you can, pull on the little dragon's arm, and it releases an egg, and there's a cool new upgrade inside the egg.
Yeah.
That mobile game feedback that many of us are suckers for. So yeah, I'm pretty good at that. I feel comfortable at it. I've never actually played against other human beings, though.
I don't think I was aware that this had a competitive mode.
Yeah, maybe it's only in the Nintendo Switch version. That seems unlikely, but I fired up Puzzle &
just to, just full disclosure, I have not spent a lot of time with Puzzle & Dragons, probably since like 2013, so it's been quite a while. I imagine, I can only imagine how much the game has changed since then.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. So I fired it up this weekend, and it was like, hey, we're doing a tournament. There's a tournament. You should play the tournament. There's cool new rewards. There's all kinds of fun stuff. And since this is the Nintendo Switch edition, which is like $4, you get everything. It's a la carte. There's no add-ons. It's not asking you for money later. You don't have to, pay $5 to pull on the dragon's arm for a new unlock. It's just the game, which is kind of fun. And I'm like, sure, let's wage and let's try out this tournament. Let's give it a shot. And I'm not as good at Puzzle and Dragons anymore as I used to be.
No.
Or as I used to think I was. It drops you into, you play against 7 other people, and basically it's sort of like a time crunch. You're not actually sort of competing with them in terms of like them appearing on the screen and you sort of battling them. You're just trying to sort of reach higher scores in the same amount of time as them.
Okay.
So it drops you into the waiting area, the lobby, with 7 other players, so 8 total. And it has your little level and a little flag representing the country that you're playing from. And it was me from the United States and 7 other people from Japan.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is already not a good start. And then it started populating the levels. And I'm like 25, 26. And everybody was like level 58, 57.
Yeah.
I was the lowest level, only American. And I was like, well, this is just perfect. I got destroyed. Just absolutely just wiped me out every time. And I kept going back to it because it's still Puzzle and Dragons. It's still fun, just with a ticking clock this time, rather than me just being able to do whatever I want to do as slowly as I'd like to, and think through every move. So it's Puzzle and Dragons, but fast. And no matter how quick I thought I was playing and how competitive I felt, I was still coming in, 6th, 7th, 8th place out of the 8 in my little cluster of players. And it was a little dispiriting. It was a little heartbreaking.
Well, there's no time pressure when you play that game normally, right? When you play single player?
Nope, you get plenty of time to think about it, to marinate, to rue your decisions.
Yeah, so why would you play it as fast as possible?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just it's flexing a different muscle, I guess. It's the things that you know how Puzzle and Dragons works, but do it 6 times faster now. And fun in a short little bursts, but not how I prefer to consume Puzzle and Dragons.
What do you get out of playing in the tournament besides just the glory of it?
A ton of upgrades. And here's the sort of the interesting thing is that I kept losing. I kept placing 6th, 7th, 8th out of 8th, and it kept still just giving me tons of XP and advances and stuff like that. So I was still cleaning up. I don't know what the people in 1st and 2nd place were getting, but I felt like I was still winning. Because when I first started, I was level 24, and by the end of the 45 minutes I played in the tournament, I was like level 32. So it gave me a ton of XP. It gave me a bunch of little pulls on the dragon arm. I got a couple new little team members with different perks and stuff like that. So it was, as a means to an end, as a way of sort of express leveling my character and getting some cool new shit I could bring back to the single player. That's fine. I'll come in 8th place. I'll be your token American. No problem.
Yeah, that's been my experience. I mean, I was thinking of other sort of gacha style mobile online games that I played that have competitive aspects, or even just maybe not even directly competitive, but just have event leaderboards, so you can see how other people how many points they're scoring in different events. And I think it's maybe a similar thing where you're sort of incentivized to play these events regardless because you get cool rewards from them.
Yeah.
But then you look at the leaderboards and you're just like, oh, wow. Is that, how many commas is that? Is that billions? Is that trillions of points at the top of the leaderboards people are earning? That's a lot. That's way more than my score. So yeah, it's a lesson I learned largely from video games, because this is how you get the easiest exposure to sort of a global competitive scene, is that pretty tough to be one of the best people in the world at anything. Pretty tough.
Yeah.
You think you're good at Tetris, and then you watch some of the top Tetris players ever, and you're like, oh, I don't even know how to play Tetris in retrospect, just based on what these people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, the Tetris subreddit was very humbling in that, it's a lot of people who are really good at the power moves and the spin moves and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know, guys, I just play Tetris. I don't really, I get overwhelmed when it starts going too fast. But these are just really hardcore Tetris consumers. So no matter how good you think you are, there's always somebody who's happy to kick your ass.
Incidentally, that's where I draw the line in Tetris, is I just don't want to commit the time to learning how to do those T-spins, because that is just not how I play Tetris, and that is a completely different, way of just looking at the game. It's made my peace with it. I'll just not
Yeah.
I'll never reach the upper echelons of Tetris players.
Yeah, and that's fine. You just have to sort of okay, the way that I play Tetris or Puzzle and Dragons is fine for me. I find it entertaining.
Yeah.
It is the appropriate distraction that I want for the 10 to 20 minutes out of my life when I'm doing it, and then I move on to the next thing. I don't have to be, as long as I'm the best person in my house, I don't have to be the best person in the world.
Right. You can still lord it over, your girlfriend, your dogs, and all that.
My dogs, exactly. Yeah, I'm certainly much better at playing Puzzle and Dragons than Roscoe, who doesn't even have thumbs. I don't even know how he would do it.
Yeah.
For the sake of our listeners, Puzzle and Dragons is it's a match 3 or more type game. You have a play field of sort of colorful icons, and the hook here is that you're not just Bejeweled, where you're not just swapping it with the thing to the left or right or up or down of it. You get to actually tap on one of the colored icons and then drag it around the play field, looking for kind of the optimal place to drop it in. And the fun thing here is as you sort of move it through the playfield, other icons sort of move out of the way and shift and move to make space for you to drag it through. So not only are you moving the one token or icon that you're trying to move, you're also pushing other stuff out of the way and creating more combinations for yourself if you do it well. So a lot of me playing Puzzle and Dragons is just sort of picking the one color I want, dragging it around and looking for kind of optimal space, and then kind of move it a little left, a little right, a little up, a little down. So it's definitely something that I consume slowly and methodically. And I was not ready for the pace at which competitive Puzzle and Dragons was going to happen.
People just clearing the entire board. It's like every other move. They're just just combo this whole thing, get a new set of crystals or whatever, and then we'll
total screen wipe. Yeah. Not how I do it. I'm like, yes, I got 3 gone. Yeah.
Yeah. That was how I played the game initially, because it just looks like Bejeweled. But then as soon as you realize there's this whole other potential mechanic that you can be taking advantage of, I was like, oh wow, this is actually really interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole other layer here that I was not exploring by just merely shifting it with the thing to the left or right of it.
Yeah. Again, probably did not get as much into that, just all the sort of strategy and implications of being able to do that than the pro Puzzle and Dragons players did. But
sure.
I got enough into it. I got into it up to my comfort level. I was like, this is cool. It's not just Bejeweled. Yeah.
One of the options for online play in this Switch edition is to play just with your friends, to create a lobby where you and your buddies do this. And I'm like, that may be the way to do this. Or just, you can play against, computer NPCs if you want to do it that way. Or you could just play the little story mode and kind of level up your way through it and do a bunch of random puzzles, which is mostly how I've been playing it. But
there you go.
Again, on the Switch for $4, it has been a nice, fine, fun distraction and a little sort of memory lane trip into oh, this was a fun game back in the day on my old phone or on my 3DS that I enjoyed.
Do they let you pay money to spin the gacha on this one?
I'm not. I have not gotten to any point in the Switch edition where it's asked me for more money or has tempted me with DLC or add-ons or anything like that. I just get the little gacha spins by getting high scores and by doing combos and stuff like that. So
get the free eggs or whatever.
Yeah, it has a ton of little built-in achievements, and it's 5 or more blue icons in a row, or something, crazy things like that, or achievable things like that, I guess. And those are enough to kind of do spins and get levels and get new players for my teams and stuff like that. So,
okay.
I've not run into anything yet where it's asked me for, or I've been tempted to, or wished I had a way to spend money to, level up or get an advantage.
I think the mobile version of this was probably, it's the first gacha game that I remember playing. I don't know if it is the first gacha game period. I feel like it's probably close.
Yeah.
But it was also just my first exposure to that whole sort of structure where you have a little team of characters and you have to spend certain resources on them to level them up. And I think in this one you merge them together or something, and you can get more characters to merge together by spinning the slot machine. With that said, I don't think I ever gave this any money back in the day. Because I think I was just perfectly satisfied with doing what I was able to do to the level where I wasn't just getting obliterated instantly by the computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was like aware that there was a higher level of this game that existed, and my party just wasn't cut out for it. And I was like, that's weird. I wonder if I'll ever get to that point. Because you can see, like, whenever you go into an area, there's like, if I remember correctly, there are a few different levels of difficulty, and maybe you only have to go up to level 40 with your party before everything gets too difficult. But that has become a very familiar thing where you play a game like this and you are presented with various tiers of essentially the same content, but just like the numbers are multiplied by 1,000 every time you go up one step, and sometimes you just can't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know how they balance Puzzle and Dragons in those higher levels. I'm not there yet, obviously. Like I said, I just hit level 32. So, maybe once I get into the 50s or 60s, so we'll see where my frustration level is out. But thus far, it feels like I say, a few random losses here or there, but mostly it feels like, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at this. I'm kind of steamrolling my way through it. I'm kicking butt every time.
Yeah. You want to be like somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be stuck down at like the first level, because then you just know, like, oh man, they're just handing this to me, right? But then probably it would be quite a time investment and potentially a financial investment to make it up to the very top levels. So I feel like in the middle somewhere good.
Yeah, and for me, the way that I've been consuming this is a couple minutes before bed. It's really just like a little comfortable thing. I finished my Animal Crossing dailies for the day. I'm not really playing anything else on the Switch. I'm not reading any books right now on the Kindle. So yeah, maybe I'll play a few minutes of Puzzle and Dragons before I go to bed. It just so happened when I fired it up the other night, they were like, "We have a competition. We have a tournament going on this weekend." I'm like, "Oh, let's see what this tournament's about." Yeah. And mostly it was about me getting my ass kicked.
Yeah. I'm surprised you're not just playing it on your phone.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I had to sort of go with it on the Switch instead of just playing it on my phone. I think maybe it was the allure of buying an all-in version of this game and not having to sort of nickel and dime my way through the mobile version.
Well,
yeah.
Glad it's still kicking around like 10 years later. I wonder if they're going to do a big 10th anniversary thing, or if that's already passed.
Still finding a way to rake in a few shekels on this thing.
Yeah. Pretty good game.
I tell you, I miss the Nintendo stuff. It was, and it's weird that this would sort of get a Switch edition and not carry over that Mario Brothers version of it with all the Mushroom Kingdom icons and stuff. Because there's like an investment there, like, oh yes, I've got Luigi on my team. And when you play sort of the vanilla Dragons, Puzzle and Dragons version, it's the most generic anime characters of all time. It's sort of like, you've unlocked Taurus, the Emperor of Dragons. I'm like, ooh, Taurus.
Well, you don't know Taurus, the Emperor of Dragons?
I do not know.
Some Puzzle and Dragons fan you are.
Phil, the second cousin of the Emperor of Dragons. No, I'm not invested in any of those people at all. So every time I pull the little dragon's arm and it poops out an egg and it's just some, the cosmic twins that are this person and this one. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Maybe in pop culture or somewhere in anime, like I'm supposed to know who these characters are, or they're just cooked up for Puzzle and Dragons and nobody knows who they are. I just don't find that part compelling at all.
Well, you gotta watch the Puzzle and Dragons movie. Then you gotta go read the wiki, and get on the forum, and discuss your favorite characters with all the other Puzzle and Dragons fans.
I gotta go to Barnes and Noble and buy every copy of the manga I can get my hands on for Puzzle and Dragons.
Yeah.
I
guarantee once you do that, all your games of Puzzle and Dragons will start making much more sense. You're just like,
so invested.
The red crystal doesn't get along with the green crystal.
So that was way more Puzzle and Dragons than I expected us to talk about this week. But there it is.
Well, cool.
Yeah. What have you been playing?
Oh, man, I was tempted with the gacha conversation. I just started playing the Hatsune Miku gacha game, which I thought was just a music game, but no, you just build a team of Vocaloid singers. But I just started playing that like yesterday, so I'll probably table it.
Ah, okay.
What I have been playing a lot of is Chocobo GP for the Nintendo Switch. Came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's a new Chocobo racing game from our friends over at Square Enix, with your favorite yellow feathered little Final Fantasy mascot.
Speaking of characters, I'm not invested in at all. I played the demo of this, and I was like, who are these people?
That was like, I mean, there's a surprising number of characters in this who just I've never heard of as well, which is weird.
Oh, really?
I was like, where are all these characters from?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a Chocobo racing game on the PlayStation 1 a long time ago. I never really got huge into it. And I think over the years there have been these, there's been sort of a Final Fantasy spin-off called Chocobo's Dungeon, which I think is where a lot of these characters come from, like the little, the pink-haired white mage, I'm pretty sure was in there. The Moogle with goggles or something. And then, of course, it just has a lot of sort of like mainstay Final Fantasy characters, like the summon monsters and everything. But there's still, like, every other character in this is they just feel like a unique character that has some history. Like, the game doesn't introduce you to a lot of characters who are, like, debuting in this, or at least that's what it feels like to me. So, yeah, there's a bit of confusion where I'm just like, oh, I didn't catch the last episode of this story, so what is going on? Like, why is everybody... why are you all racing around on this track? Not really sure.
Yeah, no, me either. I mean, the demo for the game gives you, like, the first race of the campaign.
Yeah.
And the option to go online with, I think, one track. Yeah, so it's pretty slight, and you get zero context at all. I mean, you basically go into the campaign with the presumption that you have some knowledge or understanding or investment in what's happening here or who these characters are, and I was just confused until it got me to the point where I was racing, and I was like, oh, it's just Mario Kart. It's just a kart racer.
Yeah.
It was breaking down sort of the intricate mechanics of how to do what you call it, a curb slide. What do they call that in the game?
A drift?
A drift. That's the word I'm looking for. I was like, no, I got this. I got this, Chocobo. I know how to do a drift. Thank you. I got that part.
Yeah. Once you start playing it, it's more or less Mario Kart or any sort of kart style racer, which is good. And I feel like it's actually a pretty good kart racer.
Yeah.
It's interesting playing one of these that is not Mario Kart because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is just Mario Kart, but all the names of things are different. And things work slightly differently than they do in Mario Kart, but like you're doing suspiciously similar stuff. Like the drift mechanic is exactly the same as it was in Mario Kart, and instead of picking up question boxes on the track, you collect these little magic eggs or whatever, and you get different abilities that are not like red and green turtle shells, but there's probably an analog somewhere within whatever the items they have in Chocobo GP.
Yeah. I like that it has kind of a leveling system to those little pickups in that, like, if you get one, it does one thing, but if you go through 3 of the little barriers of eggs and collect 3 of the same color, you get, like, a high-level version of whatever weapon or defensive thing that deploys. And I was like, oh, you're kind of leveling up pickups in Mario Kart, essentially, which I don't think a Mario Kart game has had before.
I don't think so. Yeah, and I was going to say, I think I actually like this approach better than Mario Kart. Because, at this point, what is even going on in Mario Kart? It's just the same game again. Like we talked about this last week. It's very familiar. So the fact that they have made any changes to it at all with Chocobo GP is just like, oh wow, new ideas finally. So I do really like the leveling up thing and the fact that you can like kind of stock multiple power-ups at once. There's just a little more strategy to which boxes you drive through rather than in Mario Kart. It feels like it just comes down to like cycling through all of them as quickly as possible until you get those red shells or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and it's always super disappointing in Mario Kart to see another set of pickup boxes coming and realize that you haven't deployed the last thing you picked up. And it's going to prevent you from getting another one unless you let go of it. So normally I just waste whatever pickup I have at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was a Mario Kart where you could bank them.
There was. You could kind of do that in Double Dash because you had the 2 drivers and they each had their own.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. That was like the last time they really did anything to change the Mario Kart formula, which is just kind of frightening because that was like 20 years ago.
But in Chocobo, I thought it was kind of a unique concept that, well, maybe if I haven't deployed the last pickup I have yet, I could strategically sort of make my pickups, a little more intense and save it for later if I don't need to, blast somebody with a blue shell or whatever right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I like that aspect of it. A lot of it is just very familiar, which is good because like Mario Kart's very good. But again, I appreciate any sort of new takes on anything that they do. Like you still have sort of you still pick up coins on the track, although this time, since it's a Final Fantasy game, they are crystals. And in addition to just boosting your speed like they do in Mario Kart, they power up. Like each rider has a unique special ability, which is kind of cool. So once you pick up enough crystals, you can use that ability. And then this is something where the jury is still out a little bit. You get access to the rider's special ability, and some of them seem much more useful than other special abilities. So picking your driver has a pretty serious impact. Beyond just like their weight class and how well they can drift and all that stuff.
Yeah. Whereas in Mario Kart, they're generally fairly interchangeable.
Yeah, it's kind of a like double-edged sword because I like being able to pick my character based on whether I like the character or not, and not just like who's going to help me win the race.
Sure.
So it's a bit of a conflict in this, but in this game, in Chocobo GP, I'm just trying to like find a character that has that balance of like being somebody who I want to race as and also somebody with a good ability and like a cart with stats that work for me, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if there was like a free mode where you can just pick a character and match them with any cart or whatever, but it doesn't seem to be at this point.
Are you playing the full version of this, or are you just sort of doing the demo?
I went in for the full thing.
Oh, wow.
I had a lot of fun with the demo, even though it is quite limited. But I was really curious. I was like, you can't really unlock more characters in the demo. I thought, I want to see what other characters in this game. And I was like...
You want to know who else is in here, yeah.
Yeah, I was having enough fun with it where I thought, okay, like I would play this for a while. Like the races are actually pretty good. So yeah, I did that. I've been playing a bit more of the story mode, which feels very like... kind of like child oriented. It's got a lot of like terrific voice acting. It's like kind of like after school cartoon style, both in terms of like the presentation and also just like the level of story that is being told. Mm-hmm. But it actually does a pretty good job of just teaching you how to race and how all the power ups work, which is interesting because I honestly can't remember if Mario Kart ever tells you anything about how to play that game.
I don't think so. No, I don't believe it does.
They just assume everybody knows how to play Mario Kart at this point.
Sure.
Which is like a fair assumption. Yeah. But I appreciate that you can just go into this and look through a tutorial menu and it'll tell you like, oh, here's how to do a drift. Here's how you combine items to level them up and like all this other stuff, which if it were Mario Kart, you would have to run to the internet to like ask somebody to figure out how to do.
I remember learning in a Mario Kart game not terribly long ago that you could deploy many of the pickups behind you instead of in front of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that, like, how have I avoided this information up to this point? How come no one ever took me aside and taught me that? Because there's no tutorial. You just sort of are expected to know how to Mario Kart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this one, they're very generous and explain everything to you, which is good.
How thoughtful.
Yeah.
Good guy, Square Enix. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty good. Pretty good Mario Kart racer. I feel like if I have one complaint about just the sort of design of the racing, it's that the tracks feel much shorter than they do in Mario Kart. And as a result, I guess, it feels more difficult to me to like win a race purely on your racing skill. Because the entire time you're just being bombarded by everybody's items. It's like, they maybe need to tone that down a little bit. Because I feel like a lot of races end up, it's the third lap out of 3, and everybody's coming up on the finish line, and if you're anywhere near the front of the pack, you just start getting like the little warning sirens popping up, and like fireballs start raining down on you, and you just start getting destroyed because everybody saves their power-ups for the very end. And at that point, there's not a whole lot you can do, because it's pretty difficult to build up a good lead in this, because the tracks are kind of short, and also you're just being attacked constantly.
Right, you can't get that far ahead because there's nowhere else to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, I like Mario Kart better in that respect. I was actually watching some videos of the new DLC tracks came out for Mario Kart 8, so I was watching those and I was like, oh yeah, this is, especially compared to Chocobo GP, there's just a lot more like driving going on in this game than in Chocobo GP, which I thought was an interesting contrast.
Yeah. Imagine being the makers of a Final Fantasy based kart racer the same week that Nintendo announces they're adding 48 tracks to the best selling Nintendo Switch game of all time.
I think was that in the same Nintendo Direct?
I believe it was the same week. Yeah, I don't know if it was the same Direct, but it was just a couple of days within each other, within the release of each other, and I was like, oh, that's really rough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I'm up for any Mario Kart alternative that comes up. Like those DLC tracks look great, also, so I'll probably play those.
I'm excited about that.
But like, I liked one of the Sonic ones. I liked that Sony generic city Von Nation Racers that came out on PS3 or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of fun with Mod Nation Racers. That was a good game.
Yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, new ideas that aren't turtle shells and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like, this was a welcome thing for them to put out, and it's pretty good, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Cool.
The big controversy, though, is that, so it's like a full-price game, but it also has a battle pass, which is a little questionable, because I feel like the whole point of a battle pass is you put out the game for free, and then make people buy the battle pass and all the other like cosmetic stuff and whatever.
And so you monetize your free-to-play game. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you keep people coming back and playing your game because there's the battle pass that they have to keep leveling up. But this one just has it. So after you buy the game, you spend in-game currency you purchase for real money, or occasionally you can earn by doing things in the game to purchase the battle pass. And then that, it's like any other battle pass. You earn rewards as you play the game more. And if you have the premium version of it, you just earn more rewards. And there are a lot of rewards that are exclusive to the battle pass, like the premium one.
Oh, jeez.
But as a result, like that in itself is a little bit questionable, because, like I said, you probably already paid a lot of money for this game. But yeah, as a result, there are a lot of like little reminders all over the place about how much progress you're making on it, and how much other currency you've earned towards stuff that you can buy in the shop, which is a little distasteful and kind of annoying.
Right after you've already spent $60 on it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, here's the thing. It's only $50, but I think some of that may be so you have a little cash left over so you can buy that premium battle pass.
How much is the battle pass?
I think I'm guessing it works out to be about $10.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So
still
a little
kind
sketchy.
of a funny taste in my mouth. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that, like, oh, boycott this game because of these like predatory tactics, which I've seen worse in mobile games and all that. I don't think this is the worst implementation of it. I just think it's questionable. Like, I don't even know if you can buy the battle pass with the free version. I think you have to have the full $50 thing in order to get the premium one, which seems like you should just let people get the battle pass, because I bet a lot more people would buy that than the full game and the battle pass.
No, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it does seem like they plan to continue this as like a game, or like a live service thing, because they've already mentioned like this is the first season of rewards. And a few months from now, there'll be a new season with like a new battle pass and new courses, which I thought was cool, because it seems like there are not a whole lot of courses in the game at the moment. And then they're going to do some rebalancing to the characters as well, so maybe that will address some of the skill usefulness and some of the other stuff about the game that I wasn't a huge fan of. But it seems cool. I mean, that definitely seems like a little more modern of an approach than they're doing with Mario Kart 8, well, for better or for worse. Like Mario Kart 8, you just got the full thing, and occasionally they would put out new courses as DLC.
Right.
But I like the idea that, oh, maybe the game will play significantly better a few months down the road, or like a year from now, where there'll be new characters and courses to check out as well.
And constantly sort of tuning it and balancing it to get all those parts right.
Yeah.
It seems easy to imagine a future world where, Mario Kart 9 plays that way. I suspect, a lot of Nintendo games are probably going to be more of a service going forward. We'll see
I'm not sure. I think it would make sense for something like Mario Kart, just because I feel like Mario Kart 8 is pretty complete. It's like Smash Brothers or something, right? Where you got this enormous roster of like every character and stage that's ever been in the series. Like, where do you even go from there? So why not just turn it into a live service where you add new characters every few months?
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is, I just don't see Nintendo doing that. We should have seen more evidence of that happening with Animal Crossing if they were going to do it with any game, I feel like. But that's not really how it played out.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I have to wonder if maybe the whatever plan they had for Animal Crossing maybe got neutered by the pandemic. Because there were a lot of things that data miners kind of dug up that never came to fruition like a year and a half later. So yeah, I have to wonder how much COVID lockdowns and stuff like that threw off whatever long-term plan they had or short-term plan they had for Animal Crossing, for supporting Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I think Splatoon 3 is probably going to be a bigger indicator of Nintendo's sort of readiness to play with stuff like that. We'll see how much of that ends up being, this constantly evolving service with live events and things like that. There were certainly elements of that in Splatoon 2, but I get the vibe just from everything they're showing thus far that 3 is going to go much, much harder on those things.
I forgot about that. That will be interesting to see.
Yeah. And that's the summer, so that's imminent.
Yeah. I just feel like on some level that Nintendo wants their games to be kind of a one and done thing where people just buy them and they can play them at home or like offline essentially and don't have to deal with the whole games as a service thing. So I'm kind of like pessimistic about that coming to Mario Kart in a way that I would like, but that'll be pretty cool if they did that.
Yeah.
Maybe if this Chocobo GP thing pans out, they will take notice.
It'll be interesting to sort of see how sort of Nintendo goes with these things in the future. And the fact that the 8-year-old Mario Kart 8 is getting DLC is insane. They know what they have. They know they've sold 50 million copies of it. So even 8 years in, it's a Wii U game, for God's sakes. They're looking for ways to get a couple more bucks out of everybody who owns a copy of it.
Right. Yeah.
Which, again, I think makes, as an Animal Crossing fan, the second best-selling Nintendo Switch game of all time, something like 42 million copies, to Mario Kart's 50 is, it's all the more disappointing that they were like, nope, we're done. This is the end.
Of Mario Kart or Animal Crossing?
Of supporting Animal Crossing.
Oh, okay.
They made it. Yeah. When the update came, the 2.0 update came in November, they were like, this is the last thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just it. It's not something they really have in mind for most of their games. It's just supposed to be these sort of discrete experiences. I'm actually shocked that they supported Smash Brothers for as long as they did.
Yeah, that has gone on for a very long time.
Yeah. But anyway, Chocobo GP, if you can get over the weird Battle Pass stuff, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But I didn't even talk about the different modes. Like the main mode, where you earn all the stuff for the Battle Pass, is a 64-player sort of tiered Battle Royale thing where you race in groups of 8. And the top 4 move on to the next round each time, which is pretty different. It feels very like massive compared to how you would play Mario Kart 8. I don't think
I made the connection on that, because I remember seeing 64 players on the screen, and then it dropped me into a race with 8. And I was like, oh, maybe it couldn't get 64 people together for some reason, but you're only racing against 7 others at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, because, God, any more than that would just be a nightmare. As
short as these tracks are, exactly.
All over again.
Exactly.
But it's been good. It's like pretty quick to get into a race. It moves along pretty briskly. Although it is kind of a commitment because then you get to do 4 races back to back, and that is that's a large reason why I went with the full version, because you unlock like the story mode and you unlock sort of like offline 8-player races, sort of like you would have in Mario Kart. So it just makes it so you're not constantly tied to the online mode.
Oh, so you can consume it a little more bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'm
Excellent.
still enjoying seeing all the weird Final Fantasy references who pop up as unlockable characters. So it's pretty good. Pretty good. Good time to be a Final Fantasy fan.
I got a big splash screen at the end of my that first race where it was sort of like, oh, if you do this right now, you get Cloud Strife. Which is like the only Final Fantasy character I actually know the name of. So I was like, oh, hey, they know what they're doing. They know who their crowd is.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta do a lot of races to unlock Cloud. I don't know if I'm gonna I don't think I've ever actually maxed out a battle pass. So
on any game ever.
Not sure if this is gonna be the one. No, you have to play a lot. Like, you really have to commit, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever played a game that had one of those. I mean, the closest I've come is, like Fall Guys had seasons. Mm-hmm. Certainly Fortnite has seasons. But I don't think I've ever put any money into Fortnite. I've certainly bought costumes and stuff like that in Fall Guys, but never, a big all-in pass or anything like that. So
I think, there was one period where I was playing Fortnite a lot, and I thought, okay, not this one, but the next season I'm going to get the Battle Pass. We're going to go all in on it. Maybe I'll get to the end. We'll see. And then this always happens. The next season rolled around, I bought the thing, and then I just never played it. So it's like, okay, well, typical.
Yeah. They love players like you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have fun coming back to this every once in a while, just doing a race or two. It's good.
Cool. Yeah. This is, I think, comparable to the Sega versus Sonic racing game that came out a few years ago at this point, because I remember having that on the Vita. And that was one of those games like, if I'm between rounds on something, or if I'm trying to get into a game on my PlayStation 3 at that point, and I've got the Vita handy, I can get a race or two of that in. And I got more of those Sega references than I certainly would get in a Final Fantasy game. I'm like, oh, it's House of the Dead, stuff like that. I was like, I know what some of these things are. But that was a fine kart racer as well. I think there were some really good tracks on that, and
it was pretty good.
Some fun little competitive stuff happening in there. So it was a nice thing to have sort of living on my Vita when I needed a quick game of something.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, what else you been into? Besides just Puzzle and Dragons.
Yeah, no, not just Puzzle and Dragons. I continue to sort of dig into the Game Pass on my new Xbox Series S. And I found a game in there that was a stealth release, I think, in late 2021 that I didn't even know existed until a few weeks ago, called The Gunk. And the reason that this is notable and surprising to me is that it was developed by Image and Form, folks who had previously done all the SteamWorld games that I love so much. SteamWorld Dig, SteamWorld Dig 2, Heist, and all those other ones.
They didn't go with the name recognition. They didn't go with SteamWorld Gunk.
Yeah, it's really surprising that it's not SteamWorld the Gunk. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I mean, maybe you make so many SteamWorld games, you just want to do something else. Something that doesn't have steam-powered robots in it. But
that's fair. I respect that.
Yeah. They are also on record as saying we currently have 4 SteamWorld games in development.
Jeez. Okay.
So this was not one of them for some reason. Why not just make that number 5, guys? It's fine. So they're not called Image and Form anymore. They're called Thunderful. So just to be, accurate, I guess,
wrong
about
with
that.
Image and Form? I mean, Image and Form is not a particularly good name, but is Thunderful better?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Thunderful is a great name either, but yeah, things change over time. I think they merged with another development studio. So I think as they sort of grew, the other studio and Image and Form came up with this new name collaboratively, and it's Thunderful now.
I was gonna say they lost a coin toss on that one.
I'm not sure who got voted on that one, but yeah. So this is called the Gunk. It's a fun little game. I had a really good time with it. It is sort of mechanic light. I think it's an interesting proposition in that you are a couple who are on a spaceship that's in pretty bad shape, and you're deeply in debt to pay off your spaceship together. And you decide that you're going to go to sort of the far reaches of your sort of known galaxy to try to find a resource-rich planet that you can kind of, mine a little bit for something that you can take back to make a little money to try to get yourself out of hawk on your spaceship. Mm-hmm. And you find this mysterious planet that appears from the distance to have a pretty vibrant and lucrative energy source on it. But when you land, much of the planet is covered in the Gunk, this snotty black, morphing and oozing kind of gunk that is just obscuring and choking the heck out of the entire environment. So one of these two characters, Ronnie, goes out and has a cool little robot arm that she modifies that allows her to suck up all the gunk. And as you go into each little sort of biome, each little sort of adventure corner of this planet, you are tasked with cleaning up as much gunk as humanly possible. And much like climbing to the top of the tallest tower in an Assassin's Creed game, everything turns bright and vibrant and fills in the map, basically. Flowers bloom into life, platforms that weren't there before pop up, ways of getting around the environment that didn't exist when the Gunk was choking everything disappear. And you get new ways of getting around that allows you to move on to the next part of this cool, mysterious planet.
But I missed that. Just from clearing up the Gunk?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So that's pretty much what you're doing throughout this whole thing, is that you have these sort of fairly linear areas where your means of getting through will be obscured by the Gunk. So you deploy your little robot vacuum arm and suck up as much Gunk as possible. New little platforms and stuff will pop up. You jump on the platform. Oh, hey, there's a green glowy bit there. If I shoot this seed that I found into that, it'll grow a new mushroom, and I can climb on top of that mushroom super fast and get outside to the next little biome, little area where there's more Gunk, and I can suck all that up and basically lather, rinse, repeat. As you're doing this, you are talking back to your partner at the ship. She's trying to repair the ship. She's trying to set up a little base camp for you. She's giving you advice on how to proceed and advising you to be careful. You're so impetuous, Ronnie. Don't rush into things. You're going to get hurt, etc., etc. And you are headstrong and not the least bit interested in entertaining her warnings. So you get yourself into a little bit of an over-your-head kind of situation. You realize that, hey, somebody maybe has been on this planet before, and maybe they're the source of the Gunk, and maybe they're dangerous. And yeah, there's a bit of a mystery there that unfurls as you get through it. So you stick around long enough to sort of set things right, to engage in a few little battles. There's little Gunk monsters that pop up, and will fight you. You use your little vacuum arm to suck them up and then fling them at each other, and they splat, and then you could suck up the little guts and stuff like that. It naturally, of course, has a crafting system where, as you reveal, new plants and new mushrooms and new crystals and things like that on the island, you can take those back to the ship and craft little upgrades for your amazing robot vacuum arm. So again, it's one of those things that's sort of like, well, it's a very pretty game. It's kind of a fun game. There's a feedback loop similar to like a SteamWorld Dig kind of game. Where
I was going to say, this is starting to sound like SteamWorld.
Absolutely, where you're sort of like, oh, I have enough little coins or little bits or little fidgets that I can upgrade my thing and do the next level, get beyond this little barrier. You need an upgrade for your robot arm that allows you to shoot out the locks on these doors that open up the next part of the garden. And so you have to go back to your ship and apply all of the little collectibles that you've done to upgrade your arm, and then teleport back to the garden, open the door, move on to the next thing. which is very much a SteamWorld kind of lather, rinse, repeat kind of feedback loop. So yeah, again, it makes it all the more puzzling that we didn't just call this SteamWorld's Gunk. I don't know. Man, all the pieces are here. How come she even has a robot arm? I don't know why we didn't just make her a steam-powered robot. It just seems like a weird thought process, a weird decision-making process to just not make this another SteamWorld game.
Well, now they have the license to just roll through all those other genres that they expanded SteamWorld into, except using this Gunk sort of universe. So now there'll be like the RTS version, and there'll be, I forget what other SteamWorld games they had. But, instead of robots, you'll just have a big arm and be cleaning up Gunk instead.
I mean, that would be cool. And maybe that's what they have in mind here for sort of future versions of the Gunk, is maybe we're building a new franchise, and that you get to basically travel across the galaxy in their beat up, broken down little spaceship with Bex and Ronnie as they, set things right and land on, different planets that have mysterious things happening. And, they get to do cool, fun, adventuresome things. The relationship between the two of them is really fun. There's some really good dialogue, some really good voice acting between the two of them as they beam back and forth and play off of each other. There's clearly a dynamic to their relationship, and you get a little bit of their history together and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's sweet. It's kind of heartwarming, and little parts and stuff like that. So it's a lot more character building than maybe has ever happened in a SteamWorld game. So perhaps that was kind of the impetus for going in a different direction and just calling this the Gunk. But yeah, it is it's fun. It's satisfying. It kind of does things nicely that I enjoy in video games. It doesn't put up too much of a fight. Any of those little battles with, some of the Gunk monsters and stuff like that. And a couple of little like, oh, that was a really dumb death. But it's super fast. You get right back into it. It doesn't really beat you up or punish you too badly. And again, you quickly get little upgrades for your robot arm that make it pretty easy to steamroll through some of those encounters. And yeah, that sort of unveiling the whole mystery and finding, mysterious alien artifacts and piecing things together is kind of fun and satisfying. I had a good time with it. I really liked it. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. That's another thing I sort of like about it. It's about a 5-hour experience. If this was a 10-hour game, maybe it might be a little long in the tooth for some of the slight mechanics that are present in this thing, but 5 hours is just about perfect for the kind of the package that it is, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So this is, it's called The Gunk. It is on Xbox Game Pass. It has just recently come to the Switch as well. So it is out there for folks to play on devices other than the Xbox. So yeah, would recommend checking it out, particularly if you like those other games. If you like that loop, particularly, and SteamWorld Dig, I think you'll find The Gunk pretty satisfying.
I don't know what it was about SteamWorld. I just felt like the loop was so front and center. Like, it was so clear that you were just like making like incremental progress down in the mine or whatever. Yeah. That I just couldn't deal with it. I was like, this is just too blatant for me. At some point I'm gonna have to turn around, I'll get an upgrade and dig 10% farther than I did the last time.
And the other side of the coin is that I find that super satisfying for some reason. I don't know how to quantify that or explain it to you in a way that would make you appreciate it, but I just found some...
I know a lot of people love that game, and I was just like, it's just not working for me for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to sort of play SteamWorld Dig and then Dig 2 kind of back-to-back within, a year and a half, 2 years of each other, and to sort of see the growth and progression and take this, fairly slight thing where you're mining. Oh, I've hit a rock I can't drill through. I better take the resources I have, go back up to the surface, upgrade my drill, go back down, and then, get into the next chasm, get into the next cavern. To get into SteamWorld Dig 2 and see them just blow that up in a huge way, go much bigger, much grander, with a new focus on exploration and combat, and really kind of turn it into a Metroidvania, and much more, a grander scale than SteamWorld Dig 1. It was, again, a very cool and fun growth in that game, I thought. And again, I don't know, I found that loop super satisfying. I always, tend to poo-poo games that rely too heavily on you must upgrade. You must collect enough magic crystals to do a thing, and, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes, every now and then, it just seems to push kind of the right button and the right sort of level of balance. And I really thought the SteamWorld Dig games kind of got that right.
Yeah, I remember hearing about SteamWorld Dig 2. It sounded like a huge improvement over the first one.
Yeah.
I don't think I like games where, like, at some point it just feels like you're kind of numerically blocked from making progress. I like the certain roguelikes where they feel like, oh, you could get through this area on the first try, or like in very few tries if you just had the right knowledge or skills or whatever. And in some other cases, it's like, oh no, you have 99 strength, you need 100 to get past this wall. So come back when you have 100. It's like, oh,
yeah,
it's kind of a bummer.
I can see that, sure. I mean, that's very Zelda, though, right? I mean, you could get past this barrier, but you don't have the slingshot, or you don't have the bombs yet. So come back later when you do.
I think that's slightly different.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not like, I don't know, wasn't prepared to totally get into it, but it's different if you lack
we're doing
a
this now. You
specific
brought it up,
tool
DJ.
that you're missing, rather than, oh, I just didn't have enough gold to raise my stats to this arbitrary number.
Oh,
to
sure.
get
Okay.
past this wall.
Sure. Yeah. I could see that. I've run
like
into
if
that
you're
in
playing
video.
a game, because I think that you could also make a lot of comments like, oh, you need to be a certain level in some RPG you're playing.
Right.
Where it's like, if you're level 9, you're going to have a very difficult time fighting this boss who you're supposed to be, like, it would be much easier if you're level 10. So it'll still be a challenge, and you may be able to pass it, but really you should be level 10, as opposed to, like, there is no way, like, the game just goes into the stats of your characters and it looks, oh, you're level 9, so you're just statistically prevented from, like, dealing damage to this boss until you're level 10. We'll just flip the switch and let you pass.
I understand. I follow.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see that when I made the Zelda comparison, but in my brain I have a memory of playing some video game where you had to sort of fight zombies, and like one of the tools that you had available to you was I don't remember what game this was a baseball bat, but it was like a level 5 baseball bat, and you couldn't pick it up because you were a level 4.
Yeah.
So
sure.
the baseball bat was just there, and I'm like, come on, let me have the bat. It's just a baseball bat. So I see that frustration. I do, absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is getting farther and farther away from my issues with SteamWorld Dig, but it's the same kind of deal where it's like, oh, time for me to... It's like I just got to the point where you have to turn around and go back to base for whatever reason. They just decided it's time, so
right,
go and do that.
So maybe the Gunk is the game for you.
Right, well, it's like, sounds like they maybe made some improvements on it. And plus, like, slagging on SteamWorld Dig is one of my favorite pastimes, so I just had to dig that up.
Cool. So that was fun. It was, again, a fun discovery on the Game Pass, and nice to sort of see that included there for the monthly fee that I pay for that thing. So
yeah.
I continue to sort of mine for gold in the Game Pass and have found some very fun games to play.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm missing out by not having a Game Pass subscription, but I feel like there are still enough games that sort of come my way. I'm just like, oh, I'll try this thing out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely good for experimentation. I do find that, like, because it's Xbox, obviously, so you pop up trophies and stuff like that. And if you go into the trophy menu, or if you have the Xbox app on your phone, which I do now because you need it to sort of install your new console, I get little notifications on my phone that I don't know how to turn off that say, oh, you just got a trophy. 15% of players have gotten this trophy. 22% of players have gotten this trophy. And I got to ones late in the game in the Gunk, 5 hours into this thing, where it was only like 26%, 33% of players have gotten this trophy. And I'm like, so only 33% of the people who have played this game basically have gotten to this point? Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty significant fall off rate. Like, if you make video games, that's probably super alarming, right? A third of the players never saw the end of your game.
Oh, I think, if so 2/3 did, that's amazing.
Oh, no, sorry. I mean, like 33% of the players only got to this point. So 1/3.
Wait.
Are we saying the same thing?
A third of your players got to the end?
Right.
Or not get to the end. No, a third still sounds generous.
Does it really?
I would expect less than a third of people to actually finish games.
So I sort of feel like that the Game Pass it sort of encourages experimentation, but doesn't encourage a lot of people to sort of actually cross the finish line. I have to imagine a lot of Game Pass players have a lot of barely completed games on their sort of library.
Yeah, I've heard that happens too, is that it seems like there are a lot more trophies now with very low sort of acquisition rates because people will just load up a game because it was on Game Pass and decide they're not into it after an hour or so and just dump it.
Right.
But I was going to say that it's similar to like how people play Steam games and how you can tell people play Steam games by looking at Steam achievements, because you'll see similar stuff like, oh man, really only 10 people got the trophy or the Steam achievement or whatever for finishing the first level. That is like astonishingly low. But I also think it's just like the same thing is kind of happening on Steam, where you just get all these games for like $1 in the most recent Steam sale. So you just kind of pick them up indiscriminately.
Huh. Does Steam actually tell you like how many actual players, or does it tell you what percentage of the game, like player base?
I think it's by percentage. I don't know. And like, I'm sure you can figure out how many people that works out to.
I have so few Steam achievements that I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But I mean, it's always interesting to just see how, like, what the drop off looks like for each game. It's usually surprisingly high.
Yeah, I guess maybe I had not really dug into that in the past, and just really sort of seeing it happen now with the Game Pass games and the way that the notifications for the achievements pop up on that. The completion rates on some of these things are very, very low.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these are not sort of like off the beaten path, kind of like find all the collectibles in the game, do all the upgrades. I expect things like that to be fairly low. But this is just sort of like complete chapter 5, stuff like that, where you basically stroll into achieving it. To find that only a third of the gamers ever got to that point is, I don't know. If I made that video game, I think I'd be a little sad about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's why I forget if there like there have been articles about what sort of things game developers are doing to account for that, but can't call any up off the top of my head. It is very
to try to like incentivize players to stick around longer.
Yeah, or like I've heard stuff like that, or maybe it's just a matter of like front loading all the good stuff in the first few hours of your game, and maybe that's why people lose interest in the back half, because it is just not as good as the opening. But
it's sort of scientifically tuned to keep you glued to your seat for the first 2 hours. Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a bummer if you design all this cool stuff and then 80% of the people who buy your game, like, it's cool they bought the game in the first place, but they just never see that cool last level you put together.
Yeah. Is it more important that they paid for it, or is it more important that they finished it?
I mean, if I was making games, I would want them to get through the whole thing. Like, I will just give them the game to play for free.
But your ability to maintain a livelihood that is propagated by continuing to make games hinges on them having bought it. So,
right, yeah, it's a tricky question. Like, in an ideal world, I think
both.
I just yes, yeah. I would just nothing would cost any money. You could just do whatever you wanted. You can make games all day. But I would rather people play the whole game and not make any money off it, rather than they pay full price for this thing and they just never play it. Be like, that is strangely unfulfilling, even though I'm completely rich at this point.
All this potential completely unrealized. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about does it, right? Do you have anything else? Any other games? Anything else you want to talk about? How's our time?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All
just
right.
doing a lot of racing this week.
Well, if you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And don't forget, you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join us on Discord. You can hang out with us and talk about video games and other fun things. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. Man, we're not talking about Elden Ring a whole lot on the show, but there's definitely some of that happening in the Discord. So
yeah, that's where we're hiding all the Elden Ring discussion.
All the Elden Ring content right now is on our Discord. So yeah, definitely if you need Elden Ring buddies, get your ass over to Discord.
Besides, we both finished that game like weeks ago. Just 100% everything. We're so over it.
Like day one.
Yeah, not even like. Don't even talk to me about that game.
Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And hook us up. Tell your friends about the show.
Please do that. It really helps us get the word out, attract new listeners. It's great. We appreciate it. Yeah. Speaking of stuff we appreciate, I'm going to give thanks again to Protodome for intro and outro music this week. You can hear more of his work at protodome.bandcamp.com. So head on over there and maybe buy some of his albums.
Do the thing. All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.